Welcome back to the Hardware Unboxed News Corner. We're now well into December and past the big flurry of online shopping sales. Hope you all managed to find some good deals on PC components. In fact, it seems like there were a lot of good deals and bargains to be had worldwide. And thank you to everyone who grabbed Hardware Unboxed merch during the sale as well. These happy unboxing shirts have been, much more popular than we expected. So if you're interested and haven't got one yet, grab one from the links in the description below before the limited edition period ends. And before we get into the news, Viotech is the kind of company you want on your side. A tech company for gamers, by gamers, dedicated to making only the best monitors at real-world prices. And here at Hardware Unboxed, we've tested and continue to recommend many of these displays. Viotech have made a name for themselves building feature-rich products that you don't have to be rich to get. All Viotech gaming monitors are protected by a zero-tolerance dead pixel policy, with customer support fully staffed in the US. And now they offer an all-new 3-year warranty. Solid performance, beautiful build, monitors that won't break the bank. Learn more at viotech.com. All right, let's kick off the news by discussing AMD's upcoming graphics cards. Unfortunately for you guys, can't talk too much about the Radeon RX 5500 series right now, but it won't be too long until we'll have more to share on that one. But from all the rumors and leaks you've seen over the past few weeks, and even something we've covered in News Corner previously, you should get a pretty good idea of what's going on by now. As far as we're aware, the RX 5500 series is also the final major hardware launch of 2019, which does kind of make sense because companies generally don't want to launch stuff too close to Christmas. Even launching something in December is usually not something companies aim for, as they miss the Black Friday shopping period. But come the second half of this month, you won't see anything new until, all fires back up again at the beginning of January at CES, which we'll talk about in a moment. What we can talk about are the new rumors of an AMD Radeon RX 5600 XT graphics card. Yep, 5600. Video Cards began talking about this card this week, stating that they have confirmed with at least 2 board partners that they are working on RX 5600 XT models. They don't have much information to go on other than the card will use 6GB of GDDR6 memory. No word on what GPU variant we're looking at. Video Cards also said that they expect the RX 5600 XT to launch early next year, possibly in January. That's interesting because in the past few weeks, we've also heard a few whispers from industry sources that some companies are working on a new AMD GPU product for release early next year. We don't know exactly what that card would be, but this does align with the Video Cards report suggesting it's the RX 5600 XT. We have even less information than Video Cards though, so don't expect a full breakdown or pricing info from us until much closer to launch. And AMD launching new products in January or early 2020 would make a bunch of sense given AMD will have a presence at CES, which kicks off on January 7th. Last year they took the time to launch AMD's not particularly interesting 2nd gen Ryzen mobile, along with the Radeon 7 as the first 7nm consumer GPU, and a teaser for 3rd gen Ryzen. And in the past, CES has been one of those key launch events for AMD too, with 2018 being used to launch Ryzen APUs. At this point, it seems pretty likely that AMD will unveil Zen 2 based APUs at CES, hopefully for both mobile and desktop platforms. That would essentially complete the rollout of Zen 2 products, given we already have Epic, Ryzen on the desktop, and now Threadripper. Of course, the Threadripper 3990X is also scheduled for 2020, probably in the early stages. AMD also will probably want to talk about Zen 2 APUs before Microsoft and Sony can steal the thunder with their console unveils, given both will be using a semi-custom version of their latest APU technology. Having a GPU launch at CES would also make sense to spice up the show a bit, and something like an RX 5600 XT would be the best bet. With the RX 5500 slotting into the mainstream market and the RX 5700 starting at $350, there is a hole in AMD's lineup that can be filled with something around that $250 mark. It'd basically be a successor to the RX 590 and a competitor to NVIDIA's GeForce GTX 1660 Super and 1660 Ti, depending on where the final price lands. The one question mark I have though is about the VRAM amount, reported to be 6GB of GDDR6. We know the RX 5500 series features up to 8GB of GDDR6. Luckily we can talk about that because AMD has already revealed it on a slide, so it'd be a bit strange for AMD to offer just 6GB on a higher tier product. Increasing the memory bus or cutting it down from larger silicon to offer 6GB does make sense from a GPU CPU bidding and design perspective, but it would leave the product in this awkward space where unless they go all out and offer 12 gigabytes, which I think is pretty unlikely, the memory configurations wouldn't necessarily align well. Anyway, we don't know if 6 gigabytes of GDDR6 is accurate, but it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. And we also don't have any major insights into AMD's plans at CES. Luckily, there don't seem to be any crazy rumors yet like we got last year. For now, we haven't heard about briefings or anything like that, but as the event approaches, I'm sure the rumor mill will kick into gear once again. This next piece is a continuation of the Intel CPU shortage story we've been discussing for the last few weeks. As a recap, 2 weeks ago, Intel released a public letter apologizing to their customers and partners for CPU shortages and shipment delays that they acknowledged were impacting businesses. Then last week, after Dell's financial results for the quarter were released, Dell decided to publicly blame Intel for having to lower forecasts for PC shipments. This week, Dell has decided to release even more information about the situation, this time saying they don't expect Intel to resolve their supply issues until the second half of 2020. Given the roadmaps and rumors we've seen, the second half of 2020 is possibly when Intel will start shifting more of their product stack to new process technologies like 10 nanometer, given August to September has been a big launch period for Intel in the past few years. Interestingly though, we are expecting Intel to release 10th generation high performance processors at some point in the first half of 2020, completing their lineup that already has 10th gen mobile and 10th gen HDD parts. These CPUs are looking like they will still be built on 14 nanometers, so I'm curious to see how that will impact the supply situation given the biggest constraints are with Intel's 14 nanometer process. Dell CFO Tom Sweet also said to Yahoo Finance that they are evaluating AMD chips. By itself, it doesn't mean much. It's not exactly a commitment that they will be replacing Intel with AMD in their systems, but it does represent at least a slight shift in thinking for the company. Dell have used AMD parts in the past and even for some current systems, but for the majority of their lineup, especially at the high end, it is all Intel. The laptops with Ryzen Mobile, for example, are in their mainstream Inspiron line, and just a very small handful of models, while the premium XPS series gets entirely 10th gen Intel CPUs. I guess with Zen 2 APUs just around the corner, it would make a lot of sense for Dell to evaluate AMD chips, and I suspect many other OEMs will be doing the same depending on how good AMD's parts end up being. AMD are getting into the NUC business, sort of. I guess first of all, NUC or next unit of computing is actually an Intel term and it's probably trademarked, so AMD probably can't use that term. And also NUCs are more of a consumer focused product, while some of these new mini PCs seem to be targeting different customers and AMD themselves are making them. Anyway, let's take a look at the Ryzen mini PCs. These new mini PCs from AMD's OEM partners use their Ryzen embedded V1000 and R1000 processors. These chips aren't anything new. The V1000 series has been in the market for a while now, while the R1000 series launched earlier this year. All are based on Zen technology. Probably not a surprise given Zen 2 APUs haven't launched yet, but still these systems won't blow you away with the performance on offer. As a recap, the Ryzen embedded V1000 series are the more powerful of the two lineups, offering up to 4 cores and Vega 11 graphics with a TDP as high as 54 watts. Meanwhile, the R1000 series is newer and lower power, but offers up to just 2 cores and Vega 3 graphics. I think the idea here is you'd use an R1000 chip in a passively cooled low power system while opting for V1000 in something with active cooling depending on the requirements. This week's announcement is bringing embedded processors to a more open and configurable mini PC form factor rather than just pure embedded applications. ASRock's kit, for example, includes one of AMD's Ryzen embedded R1000 CPUs, but has a bare bones solution with 2 SODIMM slots and an M.2 slot to be filled. EEPD's option is also interesting in that it's a very compact bare bones board with an R1000 CPU installed. Could be useful for some minimalist applications. Of course, as these processors are from AMD's embedded lineup, they are soldered on rather than socketed, but that does give space advantages and allows for more compact designs. I don't expect these systems will be for everyone, but you never know where they could come in handy. Toshiba are looking to introduce 20 terabyte hard drives in the near future. As part of the company's plan to increase their enterprise and nearline market share, they've been hard at work on new technologies to increase hard drive density for those markets where density is so important. Their current roadmap includes a 20 terabyte drive for the 2021 financial year and have talked about 10 platter drives, which seem a bit further away. Current hard drives top out at 9 platters, so there's definitely a technical challenge there to bring 10 platters into the same space. This should allow for greater than 20 terabyte capacities when it's available though, although this is just listed in the future slot on Toshiba's roadmap. There's no firm word on that will be coming. While 20 terabytes does sound cool, they aren't the first company to introduce a drive with such a high capacity. That award goes to Western Digital, who are sampling their drive right now. And of course, with all these high capacity drives, they will be quite expensive when they do eventually reach the market, although hopefully this will allow other drives such as 14 terabytes and 16 terabytes to trickle further down in price and become a great value option for high capacity storage for people like us that buy hard drives for their PCs. Couple of monitor stories now. Firstly, and this is great news, Asus have announced a firmware update for their issue-plagued PG35VQ. Those that have bought the very expensive PG35VQ, which is a 3440 by 1440 ultra-wide monitor at 200Hz with true HDR functionality, have experienced flickering and vertical line issues in games since launch. Interestingly, this isn't something I encountered with the pre-production model I reviewed, but those who bought retail models had all sorts of problems. Luckily for owners of the Asus model, they've announced a firmware update that will fix the problem, available through an update utility that should launch by the end of this month. Although, as PC Monitors notes, if you do own one of these displays, it could just be worth contacting Asus to get it fixed by their service center. And models manufactured after December 2019 should be fixed at the factory, so hopefully if you buy one of these units new, at least in the upcoming months, you won't have to deal with this problem out of the box. Unfortunately for those that own the Acer model, no word yet on their fix for the problems. Very disappointing it has taken this long to have the problem resolved, given the monitors have been on the market for months now, but at least there is relief in sight for those that forked over thousands of dollars on this premium display. As spotted by TFT Central, Acer have a new Predator X38P that is set to hit the market shortly, perhaps even now in some regions. This is interesting in that it appears to be using the same panel as LG's hotly anticipated 38GL950G, which packs a 24:10 aspect ratio nano IPS panel at 3840 by 1600 with a maximum 175Hz refresh rate. As it uses the same technology as LG's popular 27GL850, it claims 1 millisecond response times. While that is still an optimistic figure, in practice the monitor is still one of the fastest IPS screens available, so both the LG ultrawide and this new Acer option should be quite compelling. Other features include factory calibration, a 2300R curve, 450 nits of brightness, 98% P3 coverage, and display HDR 400 certification. Final topic for this week is this thing. I guess what you're looking at here is the HIS Radeon RX 5700 XT Pink Army, which is, yeah, quite something. Not really sure what words you'd use to describe this design. Is it interesting, unusual, hideous? But one of those is probably appropriate. It's also available in a Blue Army version, which is, yeah, not quite as bad, I guess, but still not great. There are also OC and non-OC models, so that makes 4 total HIS Army versions. Definitely curious to see how many wacky builds these end up in. That's it. All done for another week. Feel free to subscribe to catch this segment in your inbox every week, and it's probably worth subscribing for more than just that too, as we do have some interesting stuff coming up on the channel next week that you probably won't want to miss. You know the rest. Support us on Patreon. We have the merch store, like the video, bell icon, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one.